We're live. Hi, it's Joy from jakeandjoy.com, and we are here with our first ever guest. We are so excited. If you're watching us from wherever you are live, let us know where you're coming in from. Just give us a little comment in the comment section below. And if you're listening to this as a replay, we'd love to hear that too. This will be turned into a podcast. This is our very first podcast. And interestingly enough, our guest today can talk about how to make podcasts. This is our first attempt at it. So we're really excited that you're here. We also would love you to share this content with people in your network. If you find it valuable and you think someone else would get value from it, that would be awesome for both them and for us. Secondly, you're probably following us on Facebook, but you might not know, because I didn't, that we're on Twitter.
That's what Jake does, right?
Yeah.
He does on Twitter.
And we're also on Instagram. So you can check us out. Jake will put our handles. Is that what you call them, a handle?
Yes. The handles.
The handles. she'll put the handles down in the comment section. She'll also put a really super cool course that we both took. Not as much about making videos as Deric's going to go into today, but more about how to schedule and how often and how frequently and what type of videos you ought to be making. So you can take Deric's video information from today, merge it with that course, and Jake will put a link to that in the comments when this is over. So, okay, let's get started. Hi, I'm Joy from jakeandjoy.com, and we are so excited to bring a guest on to our Facebook Live today, which you may be listening to this as a podcast, so it's a podcast for you, and we are super stoked to have Deric Swanson with us. Deric has been shooting videos for Jake and I now for, gosh, Deric, how long?
Probably like 5 years, close to 5 years.
Yeah. Some videos, some business videos, some health videos, some stuff for our family. I mean, he's just awesome. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. He's also become a big part of our cooking show, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But Deric, maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you got involved in video, your background, and why are you qualified to be our very first guest?
Well, because I'm the one that told you all about how to do the podcast in the first place. So maybe I gave you that idea on accident. But yeah, I've been doing video production for a little over 20 years now. I graduated from college and got right into sports, which a lot of people want to do sports video, which was super fun and exciting. And I've been doing sports for, like I said, about 20 years now. But along the way, I picked up basically a freelance business and started doing corporate video and video for friends. And that actually has blossomed into quite a huge business, kind of a side hustle, as a lot of people talk about in the business. So a pretty diverse background in video, some corporate stuff, some fun stuff, some serious things, but a lot of stuff along the way. So in my 20 years, I think I've probably done it all and failed at a lot of things and probably produced a couple things that were pretty good. And I'm actually been a professor at Colorado State University for the past 8 years, doing the exact same thing that we're talking about right here, which is taking people that are either new to video or have a background in video and just want to make it better and getting them to where they can really be a professional in the industry. And so I gave a speech to my first class last night, my first class of the semester. So maybe I can regurgitate some of that and share with your viewers as well. Yeah. No, I've been doing it for 8 years now. I went through, I graduated from Colorado State University in 1996. And I went back about 8 years ago and become an adjunct professor for them, just as a way to either give back to the department, but also I just like being around it. And that was the program that I came up on. So if I can kind of give back to some of those students and just be around it, it's really fun for me to do that.
So do we need to call you Professor Swanson now?
You can. I got to get some glasses, though, and one of those silly hats. But it is funny when they say sir. And also when I bring up some movie topics.
Look around.
In class, a lot of them say, well, I've never heard of that movie. And I realized that most of them weren't even born when the movies I like came out. So that's
you still think you're really young.
I know. I'm in my mid-40s, man. I'm struggling sometimes. But yeah, when I said something about The Breakfast Club, which you can see over my left shoulder there, The Breakfast Club is one of my favorite movies. And I brought that up to my class. And some kid goes, I've never heard of that movie. I said, you've never seen The Breakfast Club? And they say, not only have I never seen it, I've never even heard of it. So, however that makes you feel. There you go.
Oh my God.
Ouch. Never even heard of it.
Well, Jake has some questions for you.
Yeah, we have some questions lined up for you. So, a lot of the people that watch us and listen to us, they're kind of either new into their business or they wanted to take their business to the next level. And a lot of people are scared about doing video. And so what I was hoping you could talk about is the value of video, especially for someone who's in the online space, and then maybe talk about like what are the important components, like, sound, lighting, what the video looks like. And you can talk about like what's the most important thing for them to focus on. And for someone who's new, like where should they be starting? Why is it important?
I mean, obviously, I think video is epically important now because it is available to everybody. I mean, just look at what YouTube has done to change our lives in the past decade. Everybody can do video. Doesn't mean they do it well, but you can do it. So days of not having the right equipment or not having access, that's gone. So the technology has totally leveled the field, which then focuses primarily on content, right? Can you provide good content that is watchable and interesting? And that's something we talk about a lot is hashtag watchable. Like if you can create something, it doesn't have to be great. It has to be good. It has to be watchable, especially if it's in little tiny chunks. So then it gets to the quality of the video. And right now, all three of us are on computers, right? We're using the onboard camera and the onboard microphone of our computers, and it looks and sounds pretty good. But look at all three of us, what we're doing. You've got a light source in your face, right? You're in a quiet room. And you have the ability to watch it in return. So you can see if it's too dark or too light. And then there's no other noises in the room to compete with what you're saying. So we probably are all three talking a little bit louder than normal. But if we were in a busy room or we were in a restaurant and we were using our phones and people had a hard time hearing what we're talking about, it kind of negates the video. Or if you had a big window right behind you and your whole body was silhouetted and dark, well, that's not watchable. So you have to make it watchable and listenable. And you can easily do that now by just adhering to a couple of things. But for me, I even have this light. So I brought this light out right here and put it in my face just so that you have a light source in your face. Like if you look at Jake's face, you can see all the colors, and same thing with Joy's face. You can see it. It's not dark. And so it's pleasant to look at, right? It's not hard to look at. And then we can, what's that? That's right. And one of the biggest things too is when people do stuff with their phone is, do you hold your phone like this? Or do you hold your phone like this? Well, all of our televisions look like this. So it's horizontal, right? And so when you shoot video to be used elsewhere, you always want to shoot it this way. But naturally, everyone shoots it this way because it's how you hold it in your hand. And if you're sharing it on social media, that's probably fine. But then when you try to repurpose this on anything that goes on a television, it looks weird. So keep in mind, what's your end user, right? If it's just going to be posted on Facebook or Instagram, you're fine getting away with this. But I have so many people that go, oh, I have this video I shot a long time ago. Can you put it in my video that's going to play on all these TVs? And all the video looks like this, and it looks terrible. So keep in mind what your end user is. You can't go wrong shooting it this way. You can find yourself in some tough spots if you shoot it this way. So one last thing with sound, and we talked about this with you guys before we did the podcast, is you can get a microphone that looks just like this. And it's super simple, costs you less than $100. And what this is a professional grade microphone, right? You hold it like this, you see this at a concert, and it sounds great. Plugs into this thing, but the key part is this end. This end right here looks just like the power cable for your phone, right? If you're using this professional microphone, they make them so they plug right into your phone. Now you've eliminated the chance that your audio is going to suck. So if you went to a big convention and you want to do interviews with people for your Facebook Live or your broadcast, and you're just using your phone, it's going to sound terrible. You throw this on your phone, and you're going to make your audio literally broadcast quality. And now you've got a good high definition camera, and you've got really good audio, and that will set you apart from anybody else that's just using this to do their stuff.
That's a really cool idea to take it to an event and do live interviews. I love that. That's super
totally
cool.
But again, if you're in a crowded convention and you're trying to shoot it with this, it's going to sound terrible and it's basically unusable. But all you need to do is add $100 worth of equipment to your arsenal, and you're good to go.
Cool.
We'll be out of business in a minute.
That's awesome. One of the things that when we work with you, we're with you in the same place. And one of the things you work on, at least with me, my mom's pretty good about this, is like not being stiff on camera and like sounding right. Like you like kind of relax a little bit. And I think that especially if someone's by themselves in front of their phone, they can like kind of get like frozen up and feel like, oh, this has to be exactly perfect. Like, it's not cool to like have flubs or whatever. And like what I think that some of the best stuff that we have done has been like looser, where we've like made, we're human, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Did you see that thing that Jake just did right there, where she's just kind of rolling? I have so much video of you doing exactly that same thing. And that's a big part of that, but also look at how you're like, both of you are smiling right now. Even if you're not in that mood, I tell people to do like a fake laugh or fake smile. And you wouldn't particularly use that piece of video, but it gets your face in that mood and it kind of gets you up and gets you laughing. And then you go right into what you're saying, and you've kind of gotten the ball rolling. That's a trick I learned when I was going to school and then doing some broadcasting with some professional broadcasters is they all do that. They all kind of do a fake laugh or a fake smile or a ha ha ha. Welcome to Jake and Joy. You know, like you're already moving that way, and then you just edit out the first part, which makes you look silly. But be careful because your editor always saves that footage of you being silly just to have it later, just to show it for fun. And you're right, one of the best things we did, I think, last summer was the blooper reel of jakeandjoy.com, kind of the launch of it. And that's one of the best videos we've ever done because it shows your personality and your character, and you guys are super silly.
Yeah.
It's fun for me to shoot it.
You can see our blooper reel on our Facebook page if you want to check that out. Okay, so my last question is about podcasts. And so this is more into the sound realm, but I think that a lot of people think that it's this overwhelming thing to take on doing a podcast. But the way you explained it, that you've got a podcast that's just super simple, super easy to do. So maybe you can like ease some people's minds about that podcasts aren't scary.
Right, they really aren't. Again, because the technology has leveled the playing field, that really you're capturing audio, and everybody's phone has a voice memo app on it that comes with it that records pretty good audio. So if you're in a totally quiet room and you are literally just recording it on this, it's not great and it's barely usable, but it's okay, right? As soon as you add this microphone to it, even if you just have one and you do an interview style podcast, again, it's a little awkward, but you're going to have now really good sounding audio, and the listener on the other side has no idea what it looks like. All they do is hear it. If it sounds good and you have good content, you have a successful podcast. So if you want to go bare bones, $100 plus the adapter, another $50, you can now record a podcast on your phone that is very high quality. If you want to get just a little bit more complicated, this is how we do our podcast. This piece of equipment was about $200. And what it does is it plugs in professional grade microphones and records it onto an SD card, not dissimilar from your camera. And now you can have two separate microphones, these, two people at lunch, or you can even have four people that are sharing, and then you're recording it to a single audio file that you can then upload. Again, we're talking at the most $300 for something that hopefully will either help your business or is super fun. We created our podcast just as three guys that wanted to go to lunch together and talk shit and enjoy and laugh and tell stories. And it turned into a thing, right? Because it was super easy and the technology didn't limit us in what we were able to do. We literally brought three microphones, plugged it in, hit record, and at the end, we took that MP3, cleaned it up, and uploaded it. I will say as a final thing, everybody knows an AV nerd like me, right? Whether it's somebody's brother or cousin or a guy that works in your office, that can help you. Right? Or you bought all the stuff and I don't know how to hook it in, and they're probably happy to do it. Or at the very minimum, you recorded it and it's got a little junk on the front, a little junk in the back, and maybe screwed up in the middle. And to edit those pieces out is pretty simple for someone who really enjoys geeking out on AV stuff like me. Cool. That's what I bring to your life. So that's necessary. But everybody knows that. And it might even be like a 12-year-old kid who loves that kind of stuff, and just engage them, right? Take them to lunch. It'll take them 15 minutes to clean up your audio, and you're good to go.
And if people wanted to listen to your podcast, what's your podcast called?
Sure, it's Lunch with Jer. Lunch with Jer, all one word. One of the guys in our podcast, his name is Jeremy. And at the beginning, we were just sitting around like, what if we did a podcast where it's all of us just having lunch with Jer? Well, that became the name of our podcast. And we've done a little over 200 episodes in the last 4 years.
Cool.
Yeah, lunchwithjer.com.
Awesome.
Deric, are there other ways that people can work with you, connect with you, or are you exclusive to us and the Colorado University?
Well, I always run it by you guys first because you have to be a pecking order of, if I'm going to come to Santa Barbara or I'm going to come see you guys in Seattle, got to make sure that's on the calendar first. My company is called Ruckus Media, RUCKUS, ruckusmedia.com.
Put that in the comments above.
Okay.
Yeah, I put that in. Not in the comments, but it's in the title of the
okay.
thing.
And the reason I brought up The Breakfast Club is if anyone's seen The Breakfast Club, there's a scene where I think it's Judd Nelson is crawling through the overhang and he falls through the ceiling and the principal runs in and he goes, I was in my office and I heard a ruckus. And everyone's like, can you describe the ruckus? Well, that's how we got the name of our company. So we've been in business for 18 years now doing all sorts of things video. And so that's my business, Ruckus Media. And that's how I run all those kind of things. But I also do run the video department at the University of Colorado, and I'm a teacher at Colorado State University. So I have a lot of diversity of things that I get to do. And I say get to do, not have to do, because video is fun. And I told my students last night, one of the reasons I got into this business is I wanted to wear tennis shoes to work every day. And if you work in a bank, or if you sell insurance, or you have a grown-up job, as I say, you'll get to wear tennis shoes to work every day. So that was important to me. But that means that you sometimes have to work a little harder and work weird hours, because people go to sporting events when they're not at work, which means I'm working when they're not working. But at the end of the day, it's super fun. So if you want to have one of those jobs where you get to wear tennis shoes to work every day, you got to make some sacrifices on the other side.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
That equipment that you were talking about isn't useful when you're doing something remotely, right?
Say it again. Ask me that one more time.
I'm reverberating a little bit here.
Sure.
The equipment that you were describing isn't workable in a situation like this, correct?
Well, not easily. I think you would have to kind of work it a little bit. I'm sure there's an app out there where you could sync up a bunch of cell phones. Like I think all of us are on an iMac, or we're all on our computer interface. There might be a way to do that. There might be a way to hook up this microphone via USB instead of the Lightning connection for your phone. And then you could just plug that USB into your computer, and then you just have to make your computer settings look for that as your audio input instead of the onboard. I had to teach Joy what onboarding was, but the onboard camera and the onboard microphone of your computer is just kind of what comes with it. This would then override that and sound a lot better. And then you would just sit here and do this the whole time.
Cool.
There's ways to do everything. It's just how much geeking out do you want to get it to look better and sound better, right? And we can get it to look pretty good and sound pretty good for minimal dollars and minimal effort.
Cool. Two last questions. Number one, what's your number one piece of advice for someone who's trying to make it in the online, world? What would be your number one piece of business advice?
Sure. I mean, obviously my specialty is video, but like I said before, it's effort, right? The technology is a level playing field. So no longer is it, well, I don't have that kind of camera and I don't have that. Everybody has access to good stuff now. So it all comes back to effort and that diversity of do a little bit of sports, or do some weddings, or do some corporate video, or sometimes I tell my students, go out and make a fun video for your mom for Mother's Day. But what that does is it gives you reps with the tools that you're going to use to make cool stuff. And so if you've done nothing but wedding videos for 5 years, you're probably so good at the equipment. If I asked you to go out and shoot a different kind of video, you might be good at it. So you have those reps. If you're just waiting for people to pay you or come to you for reasons to use your equipment, you're going to be so far behind the person that literally sleeps with their camera, right? And uses it all the time, or just finds reasons to do it. The other thing I tell my students too is give away your services for free for a while until you find a hook. So maybe go to your local gym or your local business, or talk to 2 of the people in your life that do something you think is really interesting, and say, well, what if I did some videos for you? I'm learning how to use this new camera and this new microphone. Let's do a 30-second commercial for your business, and I'll just do it for free. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just effort. But then you're learning how to use the tools at your disposal to the point where when we get together to shoot, I'm not like, shh, girls, I need quiet so I can focus on how to get this camera right. No, we have fun. I'm not saying sometimes we don't drink. Yes, always later in the day.
With a shot in your hand.
What's that?
Said sometimes you do it with a shot in your hand.
Sometimes. I mean, there's maybe a picture floating out there where I'm focusing and drinking out of a short glass at the same time. But that only happens if you're super comfortable with all the gear, right? You don't do that if you're a senior in college and you're kind of green. You need to go, oh, shoot, I got to plug this in, or I got to do it. And so when you have a familiarity with your gear, and it's not just video stuff, but I can speak to video, is if you're so good at your gear that you don't have to think about it, you become more personable, and those kind of people are easier to work with. And I think being able to do that will make you really effective in any business. And for my students, I call that my don't be an asshole speech, which is if you can do a good job, but be fun to be around and be a good person, you're much more hireable than if you are amazing at something, but you're kind of intolerable because you're either focused on your equipment too much, or you're just not fun to be around. So if I can't have a beer with you, I have a hard time hiring you, because we spend way more time interacting with each other than we do on the actual craft. So something to keep in mind, get really good at your craft.
Okay, and last question, most important question.
Number 1.
Video. What's your favorite cooking show?
Favorite cooking show? Well, for me, there's only one cooking show, but now Cook with Joy. It's always been Cook with Joy, but now we have this new wrinkle that we're folding in by making a Cook with Jake and Joy. So I'm going to have to watch the new one and compare it to the old one and see which one I like better. Because I liked it when it was just you and me one-on-one, but we had this wrinkle right here. It's going to be pretty good. So Cook with Jake and Joy.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Deric. And for those of you listening and watching, thanks so much. We're going to bring you something magical every Thursday, so make sure you never miss it. And we'll see you all soon. Thanks for tuning in to Jake and Joy.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, and guys, if you're still listening to our Facebook Live, make sure that you check out our Twitter, our whatever that is, our Instagram, and share this with your friends. And also check out Social Retail and Enrollment Blueprint. It really, really, really will help you take everything that Deric just taught you and get it into a schedule so that you can use it to explode your online business, whether it's network marketing or affiliate marketing or whatever. It'll be awesome. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.